January 8, 2011, Saturday 8:22 p.m. My sister and I had to go around to the back side of the Target Pier 1 shopping strip mall on US 40 in Plainfield, Indiana. I had bought heavy rugs from the Pier 1 store and the salesperson was going to meet us at the back door to make loading my car easier. While driving behind the mall to get to Pier 1 back loading door, my sister and I, without any doubt, saw a bright star-like object flying west. We were looking south. Plainfield, Indiana is somewhat close to the Indianapolis International Airport, so anything flying to the west would not be unusual. Because it was familiar, the very bright white star-like shape caught my attention. We pulled into the Logan's restaurant parking lot to get a better view. The time was 8:22 p.m. The moving, star-like object came to a complete stop and then moved the opposite direction left, east, in a swooping movement, and then it moved right again, west. It then stopped and remained stationary for a time. A second smaller star followed shortly after at 8:42 p.m. By 8:49 it was putting on a show for us. Side to side, climbing up, and then down for as long as we would watch. It had a floating, effortless feel when observing it. I have set criteria for myself in trying to be accurate in determining that what I am seeing is not a planet, or truly a star, etc. The very obvious and unusual back and forth, up and down movement from the two star-like objects certainly fulfilled my rule. I had been to the same area, the same time, on November 8, 2010, TJ Maxx store parking lot. I was facing south. I again noticed a bright white star object. The star object follows me in my car from one end of a parking lot across the street, changing directions from looking at it in the southeast, to after it moved, I had to view it by looking west. I literally saw it make snake-like movements from one location to another. Details to follow in reports. Needless to say, I was terrified. I would assume my sister and I have had more sightings and experiences lately than the average person. Experiences that have been witnessed by my husband, who is a medical doctor, my 16-year-old son, 2 of my nieces, and 2 of my close friends who are educated researchers. I will be grateful for Muffon's expertise to help me gain insight on what is currently happening to my family.
The 30th of June 2011, 9:10 p.m. Indianapolis, Indiana. I was sitting in my garage looking out to the west to watch sunset, when from the west came a large black sphere with no reflection on surface of object. It proceeded from the west to east, then it stopped and made 90-degree turn to the north about the same speed as a jet. There was no reflection of any kind of light on the sphere. But if you put together 5 jets at that height, this black sphere would have been the size of 5 jets in diameter. As I am close to the Indianapolis airport, I thought it was an airplane, but it had no lights at all. Said object's altitude was in between a jet landing and high-altitude airplanes. I then called Brownsburg Police Department and no one called in on said object. I was very surprised. Could not contact the airport control tower. I also had the strange feeling that it was talking to me, that we are going to meet again soon. Something about transfer of information.
Avon, Indiana, June 30th, 2011. On June 30th at 11:50 p.m. I left my home and was driving within my neighborhood to pick up my 16-year-old son at his friend's home. Close to the home, I made the last left-hand turn onto his street. I was now facing north. The home's driveway was within a few feet on my right side. Before turning into the driveway, very bright lights came from the north, behind a line of trees. The lights began slowly moving from north to south, towards me. It was very close. After taking it all in for a few seconds, face to face with the object, I then immediately drove into the driveway and was relieved that the home's garage door was open. I jumped out of my car and 2 high school young men ran out of the garage to meet me. Neither were my son. I asked if they wanted to see a UFO and pointed to the moving object that was now slowly passing in front of the house. The 2 young men were very excited, but as they watched, reality set in and they both became very quiet, awestruck. Without thinking, I told the boys, "It will not hurt you, watch, and it will turn onto Red Oak Drive, and you will see the round lights in the back that look very much like a car's headlight." Sure, enough. The small craft slowly passed us and made a right-hand turn onto Red Oak Drive. It seemed to be using the street as a guide. I asked the boys if they wanted to follow it, and they said no. I quickly called my sister who lives with me and told her to go outside to our front yard. The craft was headed west towards my home. She waited outside and did not see it. I live in a semi-wooded area, so the trees may have blocked any direction change the craft may have made. My concern turned to the teenage boys standing on the driveway who were speechless. One of the boys has agreed to be interviewed. His mother is an artist and they are working on a drawing. I asked him not to speak to his friend who also witnessed the object in hopes that they would not influence each other. The next day I spoke with the teen, artist for mother, and asked him to describe what he saw the previous night. I assured him there were no wrong answers when he became reluctant to describe the aircraft. He thought it was either a diamond or rectangle shape. I believe I know why he described it in that way. It was the craft's smaller size that when it was approaching me, head-on, I could see why someone would describe the front end as resembling a go-kart's pointed front end or having a rounded protruding diamond shape point to it. Before I sped into the driveway, the front end approaching me was somewhat bowed out. There were very bright lights across the boat area, more than one. I saw two bright lights coming from front underneath, and the smallest lights were one red and one green on the underneath side. With the white lights being so very bright, it was difficult making out specific front-end details. As it passed, the overall shape to the side and back was rectangle, with round tail lights. The back lights were not intensely bright, making it easy to recognize the rectangle shape. It was moving just high enough to clear the mature oak trees. It passed us slowly, remaining above the street. It turned right onto Red Oak Doctor as if it were following traffic laws. Without a sound, it gracefully and slowly moved west out of our sight.
The 24th of February 2012, 1:54 p.m. Danville, Indiana. I really don't know who to tell this to. I am not exactly sure if it even qualifies as a UFO event, but I thought that this might be the best place. First of all, I have no history of blackouts, head injury, or any medical condition that would cause loss of memory. I awoke roughly around 1:49 p.m. after nothing more than a night at home working on a scale model. I got out of bed and shuffled into the living room, turning on the television and PC as is my normal routine on my days off. I saw down sitting straight up on the couch around 1:54 p.m. A few seconds later it appeared at glance, then the program skipped a scene or two. I found that sort of odd, but I wasn't really paying attention because I was thinking of things I needed to buy for my modeling. But I then looked down at the clock on the cable box to find that it was now after 2 p.m. I thought that the cable company made some kind of error, until I checked my phone, alarm clock, and PC. All saying the same time. Almost 2:05 p.m. I had almost 10 minutes of missing time. I am not sure what to do with this. I don't remember anything unusual, besides the scene skip that I wasn't paying a great deal of attention to. Once I started thinking about it more, I started remembering abduction stories I have heard, and reports of missing time, where the victims claim to remember nothing out of the ordinary, in fact, don't seem to realize anything even happened, but somehow missing minutes, and even hours. Can anyone bring any light to this? I have no idea what to make of it.
The 22nd of May 2012, 10:30 p.m. Danville, Indiana. I was standing in a field next to an apartment parking lot, smoking a cigarette. I was looking SSE at the stars and some planes. I noticed two lights that appeared the same size as the planes flying over, but they were twinkling and did not have the flashing red light visible. They caught my eye because I had scanned past them, and when I looked back, they were closer together than previously. So I started watching them. At first sighting they appeared a thumb length apart. It seemed like they were both moving from SE to NW, when suddenly one seemed to dart NE, bringing it to 1/2 thumb length from the other. They then continued moving NW steadily for approximately 1 minute. The change in position in that time was approximately 1. They then stopped completely for several seconds, and then one of them seemed to move in a small circle. This movement continued for approximately 1 minute. At that time, another object caught my eye. It was also headed from SE to NW, but appeared bigger and brighter than the other two. It was headed on a path directly towards me. I focused my attention on it for a split second, then, thinking it might be a plane, looked back at the other two objects and they were gone. I scanned that section of the sky for about a minute trying to figure out where they had gone. No cloud cover, no trees, nothing blocking my view. Then noticed this bigger object again. It appeared lower than the other two because I could make out more of a shape to it. It appeared, at first, vaguely V-shaped, but again there was no flashing red light commonly seen on planes here. It also had a bright white-bluish glow to it with an occasional blue and yellow light pulsing. I still wasn't convinced it wasn't a plane, but continued to watch. Over the course of 10 minutes or so, it moved from about 65 degrees above the horizon to 90 degrees above the horizon and directly overhead. During the time, it did a lot of zigzagging, seemed to slow down then speed up, changed direction a few times, and appeared stationary a few times. As it got almost directly overhead, it suddenly diminished in size, which made me think it had rapidly gained altitude.